I have had a degree of test anxiety almost my whole life, but mostly in topics that I'm unsure of myself. When you grow up, the tests get harder. In nursing school, you have to score at least an 80% to pass. Well, okay, now you just made it even worse for me because now the pressure's really on to get that A. Even though, I'd always shoot for an A anyway, you have a little cushion there. If you get a 79, okay, a C plus is better than failing. But no, in nursing school, that is failing. So your cushion's a lot smaller, and that puts the pressure on. The test anxiety only grew as I got older. Tests that you have to take are one thing, but tests just for additional certifications, that's voluntary. And then you got to pay for this test. So if you fail, that's money that you're just out. So it sends this little ball of in the pit of your stomach and just makes you want to throw up, and you can't eat, and you want to pull your hair out.
Welcome to A Nurse First. This is Shanan Thode, telling her own A Nurse First story.
My first job was at the hospital in the neuroscience medical surgical unit. I spent my first 2 years there, did learn a lot. And after those 2 years, I felt like I needed to stretch myself a little bit. So I went to the intensive care unit where I spent the next 5 years. And I interviewed, they said, oh yes, we're a big happy family. We're a big unit. We all work together. And so I thought, okay, great, shouldn't feel picked on. And I got there and all these cliques were everywhere, and I didn't fit into any one of the cliques. I never have my whole life. I'm just, a unique individual. I'm just me. When I didn't fit into any of the cliques, I, got shunned out of everything. And it got to the point where the nurses taking over my shift would go and try and report something that they thought I did wrong, even though my charting showed it was accurate, just to try to get me in trouble. They literally wrote me up for a patient, doing something wrong with a patient, on a night I wasn't even in the hospital. I mean, it was terrible how hard they were trying to push me out. They finally bullied me out of the position. I thought, is this ever going to end? I almost quit being a nurse. I really did. I took a year off when I first left the hospital. I didn't want anything to do with anybody anymore. When I did go back into nursing, and it took some time, I had to start very slow and work my way back into the field. I found my way into the home care situation, who is so desperate. All of home care is so desperate for nurses. I tried a couple different parts of home care, and where I accidentally one day landed in pediatric private duty nursing. And I found my heart, my passion, my reason for existing was taking care of these kids. And I've loved every minute of it.
Shanan had finally found her place in the nursing world, where she felt comfortable, accepted, and valuable. Something still wasn't quite right, though. Through her experiences with many different private duty home care agencies, she realized the new nurses around her weren't getting the training she knew they needed to properly care for the type of patients they regularly saw. Slowly, the idea that she could lead this change grew, until Shanan could no longer ignore it, even if it meant facing her anxiety head-on and returning to school.
I just want to make sure that the nurses in home care are getting trained the way they need to be, that the policies are in place, that the agencies are following it, because these kids need proper care and they need to be safe. With what I've seen, with what I've experienced, and with what I've studied, researched, and read about home care, that's not happening right now, and I want to make sure that it happens. I only had 9 classes left to take. I took them, graduated, I got my bachelor's degree, and then COVID hit. And I said, while I'm on a roll and we're stuck at home anyway, it makes so much sense. I can do this all online. Let me do it. I knew a long time ago that I wanted to be a nurse educator. And so the direction I did end up going with my master's was nursing education. I did my entire master's degree online in like a year because we were stuck at home. I could just sit there and crank right through it. It was awesome. And I said, I have to go for the PhD. I have to get my doctorate. I can't not do it now. It's right there. It just made all the sense in the world to go do it. And that way I can make sure I get my voice heard.
The only thing standing in Shannon's way was the certified nurse educator exam.
To take the full CNE exam, you do have to have a couple of years experience. They were putting out a new one called CNE with a small n next to it, standing for novice. And you can take that within the first 2 years of graduation. It's a trial exam. They were just putting it together for new nurse educators like me. I did decide to post on the circle because while I tend to be kind of a private person, I don't post a lot on social media, and I didn't want to put it out on Facebook for the whole world to see. The circle is this tight-knit community, and I've never seen anything but positivity and encouragement there. The circle, it's this community of nurse educators that are all just working together, looking for the best methods and the best that we can do to teach the new nurses coming in. And my nerves got the better of me, and I said, please, if anybody cares, could I get just a couple of words of encouragement, or could somebody cross their fingers for me, or just send some positive thoughts my way, anything, because, I hate taking tests, and I signed up for this, and I don't know why, but I have to do this now because I already spent the money. And a few people did reach out. There was a lot of positive encouragement. The first one that I remembered the most, it was something to the effect of, you're striving for something very difficult. You can do this. Just remember, it's one question at a time, and we're all rooting for you. Oh, when I read that first response, this big goofy smile came across my face, because then I knew somebody had actually seen my post, and they read it, and they cared enough to respond. It touched the way it does when you get a surprise card in the mail that just says, I'm thinking about you, or happy birthday, or whatever. Like somebody took the time to go through that effort. Even though it's 5 seconds of typing, they cared enough to reach out, and that meant so much. And then more messages poured in. I feel like I cried a little bit more each time. Like it was just, oh my gosh, I have friends. I don't know who they are, but I have friends. Even strangers can be friends. You don't have to know who they are, but just knowing that someone is out there and rooting for you and thinking positive thoughts for you can mean so much. I still wasn't necessarily expecting that level of encouragement from them because of what I had faced before. So when this positivity came my way, I almost didn't even know what to think at first. It was so touching. I was like, wow, I'm finally accepted. And a couple of them even reached out to me. They wanted to just be in touch and be a connection, a professional connection. And I just loved that. Like, really? Am I really worth that? When most people take their CNE exam, they find out right away the answers because that's already an established exam. This novice style one, because it was brand new and doing a trial period thing, they made us wait weeks for the results. And I think that may have been more agonizing than the lead up period to the test, because I've done it and it's over, and now I'm sitting here. I've already bitten my nails to the nubs, but I keep chewing because the nerves and anxiety haven't gone away until I know the result. When I got the email, it was in bold letters. I mean, I can still see it plain as day in bold letters. Congratulations, ! You passed your exam. And I just sat there and hands to my face because I instantly started crying, and I'm doing it again. Oh my gosh, I couldn't believe it. All this pressure just melted off of my shoulders and everything. I could breathe. Once I got done crying and I could actually see again, I did go back onto the circle and I posted, just in case anybody was waiting for that response. I said to anybody who followed me and everybody who posted their positive thoughts, however much it helped, thank you, because I did pass. And I said, I've never felt the sense of community that I got here. This is the first time I've actually felt like part of a community of professional adults. I've never felt that before. And it's been absolutely amazing. When you're on the circle, they do understand what an accomplishment this is. And it means so much more than just standard social media.
There is definitely a different level of understanding of what you've accomplished among us nurses. And knowing the time and energy you had to put in makes me so proud of you for pushing through. What's next for your education and your career?
My certification is good for 5 years. It'll give me a chance to go and start in the teaching process, get the classes written that these home care nurses need, because I've got the research to back it, got everything in motion, and I've started the class. I can build on it from there. Once I've got more experience, then I can go for the full CNE exam when this one expires, and I'll have some experience under my belt for it. The next couple of years, 3.5 in particular, I will be starting my doctorate program. I have to look for some preceptors to do my pediatric nurse practitioner, because I do want to stay focused with the pediatrics. But what I want to do is make sure that I learn everything that these kids in home care need from nurses and doctors to be able to train the nurses going into those homes. That I feel like that will help round out my education and knowledge, so that I can do the best I can for the nurses I'll be educating going into private duty nursing. I intend to be the kind of educator that is always available to my students. A couple of my instructors were like that, and I want to make sure that I do it like them, because those are the instructors that really make a difference. At least they did to me. Everybody's challenges are unique to that person, and everybody, I think, at some point needs to know that there's someone out there who's rooting for them, who supports them, who wants to see them succeed. And I will tell you this right here, right now, I am absolutely one of those persons who is going to root for you. I don't need to meet you. I don't need to know who you are, but you have some stranger out there who's sending positive thoughts your way to help you get through the next challenge. There's always going to be challenges, and you just take them one at a time and face them head on, because on the other side of that is the most amazing feeling of joy and freedom and happiness, and I want to see that for you as much as I do for me.
Thank you for listening to A Nurse First from Sigma. If you loved this episode, do us a favor and subscribe, rate, and leave us a review. It is very much appreciated. For more information about A Nurse First and Sigma, visit sigmanursing.org. Until next time.